Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and this is Street Talk. And as usual, I got another great show. I've done 3 shows today, and this got to be my favorite because I'm with one of my favorite people, and that's not my co-host Dominic Cotton that's sitting across the table from me. That's causing me all kinds of trouble. But Dominic's here. But my favorite guy, okay, head of the Black Latino Caucus, Bruce Morris. God bless you.
God bless you. Great to be here again with you, Father Russ and Dominic.
Yeah. Always great to have you on. And tonight I was going to discuss other stuff, okay, that maybe we could get into, but obviously tragedy struck today.
Yeah.
Again,
It's been a bad day.
Seriously bad day. It was a bad week for me, as Dominic told you. Okay, but I had gone and I didn't know anything about it. I had gone late last night. I went in, I did a show, and while I was doing the show, I found out about what had happened. Okay, a lot of people don't know the history of their church,
Yeah.
which is one of the oldest in the nation, serious civil rights church and stuff like that. To go to Bible study.
Mm-hmm. Bible study and prayer.
And prayer. A 21-year-old kid. This is bad stuff.
Yeah, inexplicable. You know, I mean, the loss of life, in what apparently, I mean, everyone knew a hate crime, but clearly now that we know who the young man is, and you see a lot of the symbolisms, you know the motivation.
Yeah, I know you've been busy, and I probably studied and didn't catch up on a lot of this stuff. I know a lot of the symbolism that is involved with this, obviously, because I study it. I've studied this stuff for years and everything else like that. Serious, wherever he got this stuff, to me, it's not a situation where this was a 21-year-old mind that planned. I believe he needed help or he needed information because of the history of the church, because of all the symbolism around where this happened. I mean, this is serious.
Yeah.
This is serious
and to
stuff.
target a church that has the type of impact that this one had within its community, and in particular with its pastor, being a sitting state senator for 19 years, as I understand.
Right.
So certainly activists.
Yeah.
You know, taking the conversation that we've always had about
Right.
taking the church outside of the 4 walls.
Right.
Had a pastor that had that mindset, and again, the history that's there. And this is a loud statement that certainly everyone in the country should be paying attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to tell people they were talking obviously in the paper about the signatures, things he has on his shirts and everything else like that. And somebody said, "Oh no, that's not racist stuff." I said, "Wait." I said, "Well, my cross. People who can see my cross, you see it on a lot of. Well, it's a Celtic cross, yes. Okay, it's a Benedictine cross. But when they use that symbol, it is not. It's not the cross. It's the hairs of a sniper scope. They put the symbolism like it's the Christian cross, but in fact, anybody who's a gunman or a marksman or stuff like that understands that is the crosshairs of a scope, and that's okay, and that's how they use it, and it's part of their secret foolishness that these individuals do. This is horrible.
Well, it is. It's interesting because in our previous conversations, you know, around a number of subjects, whether it's judicial reform, whether it's education, whether it's economics, we've always kind of circled back. I think even our last show, when we talked about Prudence Crandall, about the reality of racism and how alive and well it still is within our country.
It's absolutely frightening. It's frightening. I mean, the last things I can think of, like anything what happened with the children in the church, way back when they
the bombing,
the bombing in the church. Okay, I mean that's what that brings to mind right away. I mean, of all places to have this kind of stuff happen.
Yeah, and particularly, I think the last time we were discussing as well, that's when we had the situation with, I forget the name of the gentleman who was in South Carolina, in Charleston, who had been shot in the back by the police officer.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so we're talking the
We're
same, we're talking the
stuff.
same community.
Same community. I'm not sure if that's one, that was Scott, was that, or was Scott the other one? I mean, there was a,
We were talking
Wow.
about the one that happened in Baltimore, in the back of the van.
right.
Right, but
And-
we also
and then-
talked
And then we
about,
were
Right,
talking
right.
about the cop that would
Right,
just,
yeah.
the guy was running off from
Yeah.
his
Well, yeah,
Mercedes. and
exactly.
Shot him
Right.
in the back.
Yeah,
clearly,
clearly, same area.
yeah.
You know, only, we're talking blocks. I mean, this is,
Yeah, so it was good to see that at least the mayor of Charleston quickly stepped up,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and was very clear. He didn't shirk his responsibility, call it exactly what it was, and had the community leaders around him. Smart man, could have done so, and I certainly appreciated it.
Oh, yeah.
I saw this first thing this morning as I woke up.
right.
Didn't expect it.
No, nobody. One of the things that I really did like, I heard a few minutes between shows and running today, and I don't know which leader it was that talked about going back, told people in the community and people in the churches to go back to the communities, and we need to talk about this stuff. We need to really raise this conversation to a serious national level where we're seriously talking about guns. I mean, I just had an individual, before you folks come in, walk out and talk, oh, people gotta understand guns don't kill people. I said, wait a minute. Are you, the gun killed. The gun, with the people behind it, I said, what, 21-year-old kid had these guns. I said, who needs guns? I said, I've been a gunman all my life, hunting, trapping, stuff like that. I'm not talking, what do you need a gun for in the middle, in New London? I said, I got a 120-pound pit bull. That's all I need. Worried about safety? But get a dog. You know, forget this. We really need to do something about the guns. I really have come my own, for me, to come a long way and say, this got to stop. And if it means I lose my gun, who cares? I don't care. I mean, or anybody's got to lose their guns. You know, I'm almost where Norman Pattis is. He wants them. He don't care about the Second Amendment.
That's what they do in the country that I came from.
I was just going to say,
I
right?
came from England. You know what? They don't, the bobbies.
Yeah, they would whistle, right?
Yeah, they don't walk around with a gun. You know, they deal with people, you know, without that. And it's a difference in culture too. I know you and I have talked about
All the
this,
time.
about the differences, like when you go out west and how much of a gun culture and everything else that there is within it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the prevalence of a young generation. This is a 21-year-old young man. Okay, that challenges authority and having the availability of weapons, and many of them who have mental health issues. That wasn't the case here, as we understand.
We don't.
But you do get concerned about the ability for every and anyone to be able to have a gun in this society. I was telling Dominic a little earlier, when I was watching the TV this morning, they were talking about a Gallup poll. About and it was about the confidence level that people had in education, institutional religion, Congress, the president. The numbers were drastically low, all below 50%, some of them like 8%, really bad numbers. So when I take a look at a poll like that, and you talk about the confidence level across in an entire nation, and young people that may sometimes be misdirected, having weapons available, drugs, and a lot of other different things. Those who are being influenced by ISIS, Al Qaeda. I mean, we've got a number of things going on.
yeah.
Kids who just
Crazy stuff.
so the institutional authorities that were in place for so long, no longer having credibility. I think that puts us as a nation and with our communities in a real crisis mode to some extent.
Oh, I agree.
When you can talk about race and you can say the types of things that, I'll put them out there, the kind of things that Mr. Donald Trump says openly as when you say you want to become a presidential candidate.
Oh, yeah. It's outrageous.
Right.
It's disgusting. It's morally disgusting in those things. I mean, we've taken our police and made paramilitary people out of them. So they have it's we, they. They're not part of the community. They're not part of the community anymore. How do you take that back?
Well, good, because there you go, because that's an authority
Right.
that we historically, when we grew up as kids,
Right.
that was authority we all respected.
Oh, yeah, right.
We had good
Get a
reason.
boot and a rear end,
There you go.
okay?
We knew they protected and they served.
Protected and they served.
But
right.
here we are now this year,
Yeah.
trying to push a bill on excessive police force. Why? Because we've lost confidence
Right.
in our police department.
Right.
They've proven themselves, not all of them, but because of those few,
No, but it will spoil everything. That's right. It is the few, okay? However, I talked about that to somebody. You know, my brother's a sheriff. I have a lot of family members that are police, fire, first responders, huge amount of them. Okay, they probably get mad at me all the time they see me, but okay, there's the blue group, okay, and I worked 8 years in the police department. People don't. I was part and parcel of their culture, living with them, eating with them, being part of them, and they take you on, and okay, and that culture, you get somebody wrong in there, and they don't say nothing about it, because the guy's got to go out in the street, or the woman, and that guy or woman that's bad, they need them protecting their back, so they protect them instead of saying, look, you got to get rid of these people. They know they got bad people, and they all know who they are, and they need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping technology is moving towards taking care of that now.
You're right. Well, we're hoping to do the
We're
cameras.
hoping with the
cameras,
cameras,
I
right.
mean, because if we allow the abuse of authority to continue, we're a society where people, they love their freedoms.
Exactly
So
right.
at some point, you know, you get that a tipping point where people say, I'm going to take my freedom back.
Yeah,
And that's what we're getting. So,
Yeah.
but sort of that technology, it's not just video technology, there's other things that we need.
There's other things. There's voice
It
stuff.
isn't just video technology, but it's also the training. I mean, here we are, we're talking about fair and impartial policing for police.
Right.
And I think I've talked about this before.
We and I have gotten it. Yeah, right.
Okay,
But
that's serious
it's
training needs to happen.
serious stuff.
Cultural competency.
Right.
Whether you're in police, position of authority. Whether you're school teachers, position of
Position of
authority.
authority, right.
Okay, it happens in the business place for people in authority. Why? In order to be productive. Cultural competency is important across the board.
Well, corporations require it.
Sure do.
I think within that too is competency about dealing with mental health and other people with disabilities. Because
Certainly.
there's a lot of misperceptions that go on around there, and a lot that gets missed, and a lot in the way that they interact and treat with, you know, everybody. That if you could learn these de-escalation techniques instead of upping the ante, you know, you're going to calm the situation down.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like some guy, you know, thinking he's Rambo with a gun in the middle of a pool party, you know, running around like, you know, he's like doing SWAT-like techniques with people.
Right.
But it's learning how to do these techniques. And you're right, training is the huge part of it.
I guess it comes even from our kids growing up. The changes happened over decades,
Right.
where we're no longer teaching empathy.
Oh,
Right?
exactly. right.
Empathy. So now you made me go down a street that I wasn't going to go down, which is when we start talking about a budget and where you're going to make cuts and things like that. That's the reason why you can't make cuts to DDS. There's no reason you should be making cuts to the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Because we need to make certain that we're protecting those who are vulnerable.
Well, exactly. But social competency is a real problem. We're bad at doing any of that stuff for some reason. We're seriously bad. Historically, we're bad. Historically, we don't teach the truth. Okay, we don't teach the truth. You know, it brings you back to the Crandall situation, yeah? Brutus Crandall. We don't teach the truth. I mean, we had people who read the book and heard Don Williams, who wrote the book, talked about that on TV. I walked out into a studio one place and said, I didn't know that. I had people out there saying, that really happened here? That's here? Yeah, that's here. That's up the street. I mean, what's wrong with you folks?
Well, I went through your school system. I grew up down in Norwalk. I went through Norwalk High School, middle school, you know, elementary school. You know, I never heard any of this stuff.
No.
No,
Nowhere.
That's right.
nobody talks about it.
And even though there's a law on the books that these things will be taught, they're taught very quickly. You know?
Skimmed.
Yeah. I know the
cruise over.
Black history is taught real
Yeah,
quickly in 8th grade or real
right,
quick.
Right,
yeah.
exactly
All
right.
right.
You know, I mean, I'm sorry, Irish history, I think every Irish guy should know about their history. They'd be shocked. They'd be shocked to understand. And if they had been smart at the time and they had joined the civil rights movement like they should have, we'd have unions in this country that were solid and stuff like that. But they didn't. They caught onto this race crap, okay, like the skin makes you better, which is a bunch of crap. There's horror stories of what we have done educationally. With unions, unions need to take their weight too.
Yeah.
My unions need to take their weight. I mean, they were to blame for a lot of this stuff. Okay, over the years. I mean, economically, the whole infrastructure, as we say, it's systemic, needs to take on their responsibility of what happened and what was done, and it needs to be taught, and it needs to have open discussion without people throwing bombs at each other.
Yeah. About how we value the dignity of every human being, regardless of your religion, your
Right.
race, your creed, your sexual orientation. Go down the whole bit.
The whole bit.
Until we get there, until we actually take a look at those inalienable rights,
right.
and no longer treat them like they're just on a piece of paper.
Right.
But we ensure that every citizen actually enjoys those inalienable rights.
See, I want the 13th Amendment taken off the books. No person, nobody, for any reason, has a right to own anybody. I don't care even if it's for conviction of a crime or war or nobody, that's a natural right.
Yeah.
Under God, only God owns you. Okay, no man, okay, and we still have that on the book. If you're a felon, if you're convicted of a crime, that's the only slavery we have in the only, that means we got at least 4 million at least.
That's right.
Okay, that are actually slaves. They don't even know it. They're slaved by the Constitution. It isn't gone away.
And just interestingly, 70% or more of them are people of color.
Well, exactly right.
Institutionalized slavery.
Slavery, yeah, absolutely. And that was all done over economic reasons, okay? And if any economist worse than salt understands that, okay? Because we did not want, black people, ex-slaves, developing businesses and developing in the economy and stuff like that. And then we still needed the workers that we supposedly set free.
Yep. And I always appreciate having these conversations with you and Dominic and others. And certainly glad to be able to be doing that on this show. So then it becomes the issue to those who are viewing this show today. What are they willing to do with you, Father Russ, and with you and I and others that are fighting the cause for the human dignity of all individuals? What will the viewers of this show do after the show?
After the show, that's what,
Right. To fight for the human dignity of every individual.
Exactly.
All right? And again, you got to follow the money. If you really believe in it, you're going to put the dollars behind
You
it.
got to put dollars
Okay.
behind
Right.
it. Exactly
Policy means
right.
nothing unless the dollars are there.
You see, you got that right on.
I learned that firsthand.
I-
Yeah, follow the money.
You know what? I believe I said that on Kathy's show. I said, you can say what you want, but if you don't put the bucks behind it,
There you go.
you're full of baloney.
Yep.
Okay, you need to do that. I said, people say, when I talk about redistribution of wealth, well, guess what? I said, you're gonna put me out? I made some mistakes, or I didn't finish school now, and I'm 30 years old and I got no hope. You're gonna keep me working at $7 an hour, and I can't feed my family or my girlfriend. Guess what I'm gonna do? Okay, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
this
we're
is
talking about a society moving beyond the what's in it for me, which
Right.
that's just a human
thing.
characteristic.
Right,
And again, to understand what I always talk about is our interdependence.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay?
Right.
It's not about what's in it for me, but the fact understanding what's in it for me is whatever's in it for you, that's what's in it for me.
Exactly what has to happen.
So I wanted to put that out there so that anyone who's viewing this tonight can think about, listen, this isn't just conversation. You're serious about what you do, and that's why I appreciate you. That's why I respect the both of you. All right? You put your time in. You're serious about the work. You've done phenomenal things. I'm so grateful for all that you've done legislatively. You're doing it. And this show is an opportunity for people to hear about those phenomenal things, certainly become educated to the issues. But at the end of the day, it's called street talk. But the street talk has got to become a street walk.
It's got to be a walk. That's why we do the show, because of my people, the grassroots people. I'm here to show them, and we occasionally talk about that on the show, that it doesn't matter your background, what you did wrong, what you did 30 years ago, whether you wear this foolish thing or not. It doesn't. It matters that you go out and you help your neighbor, that you go out and you vote, that you go out and you pick up that phone and make that call.
Yeah, and write those letters and everything else
all
that's
the other
necessary.
stuff. Good evening, you're on Street Talk with Father Russ and his guests. Hello?
Hi, it's Father Russ.
Hey, Ray. Okay, Ray, what's up?
Father Russ,
What?
how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ray.
Hey, Father Russ,
You got a question, Ray? What?
I got a question for you.
What's that?
How did I do last week?
You did wonderful.
Thank you.
You did great. You're one of the stars. I'll have you on next year, okay? You'll be coming back next year, Ray, okay? Not this year, next year, okay? Say hello to Dominic.
Don't
Who's your guest?
don't worry, Ray. I got your telephone number.
My guest is Representative Bruce Morris. You listening to me?
Who's your guest?
Representative Bruce Morris. He's the head of the Black and Latino Caucus. Say hello, Ray.
How are you?
Good in you, Ray.
Okay?
I'm all right.
Okay.
You're doing a good job, too.
Thank you. I gotta go now.
Can I say hi to your guest?
You just did.
Yes, hello, Ray.
Hi.
Hey, Ray.
We're all say hello to you, Ray.
Okay?
Good, how are you?
Very good.
All right.
All right. Love you, Ray. You okay? What?
What would you want me go on the TV again?
What?
Next year, I'm going to call
Next
you.
year.
I'm going to call you New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve, okay? Not this year.
year.
Okay, next year. All right? I gotta go. All right?
Well, I want to thank you, Father Russ.
Oh, I was so glad to have you
You're
on.
a good compliment.
Okay. Bless you.
Night.
Good night. Ray's a wonderful guy, loyal watcher, very religious, goes to church
Two or three times a
two or three
week.
times a week.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got sisters, challenging individual, and but it's sweet. He will make the phone calls. He votes. He does. And just what we were saying about what you have. What do you do after the show's over?
Yeah.
What do you do? Obviously, those who follow my Street Talk blog or follow us on Facebook, we tell them what to do. Like like with the juvenile justice stuff. I couldn't walk across the aisle because of my reputation a long time, but we got Dominic to take care of that, right?
Yeah.
So I said I had to tell this story because
Oh, good. You're gonna get me in trouble.
because Bruce saw us today. Obviously, I went to Senator Fasano's monthly meeting that he has with his constituents, probably about, I think, 6 months in a row.
Oh, yeah, he kept pounding.
And he finally agreed, and he calls us up. And he's like, can you come in on Monday? His aide, Chris Fletcher, calls us up, come in on Monday. I'm like, yeah, we're going to be there. So we walk in there. We're sitting down with Senator Kissel because he promised me that he would have a meeting with his caucus over this issue. He kind of went back and forth, but he kept his promise about it.
Me.
Yeah. So he hands us the bill that they had that they wanted to run last year. And we're like looking through it. And God knows, when I take something, I read through it like 1,500 times, so I know what's in it and what's missing.
Yeah.
So we talk, and there's just like, a couple changes, reasonable stuff. So we're both in shock over this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. He asked me about the issues.
Yeah.
I said, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
I said, there's convicts We don't care, you know?
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, you gotta protect the community.
Yep.
We're not,
Yeah.
I want a second, just take a look at me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying let me out, I'm saying take a look at me, let's, you know?
Yep.
And that's it, you know?
So he's like, here, you can have this copy.
And he
I'm
gave
like,
us the copy.
we had already had a meeting for later on in that week with Senator Coleman to sit down and discuss this. And this was right after that long thing where that judge, who was a little bit,
Testy.
yeah,
Testy a good word?
on his way out.
You're the one who didn't get approved.
The one-
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could see him, and he was just, you could tell, he was
was
exhausted. He
burnt
just
out.
had it in with like the governor's
Poor man.
office.
Yeah.
Right.
Got, and he's like, I promised to like see you at like 4:30. It's like 8 o'clock at night. He like has us come in. And so, I give him what they gave to us, and I said, I highlighted, these are the areas, these are the changes, and he's like, I've never seen this before. I'm like,
And people told us that you
Yeah.
hadn't seen it.
and I'm like, okay. And you could tell the guy was just like exhausted, right? And he's like, looking through it, and I'm like, here's the changes that were highlighted, and you could just tell he was just like completely worn. So Father Russ looks over at him, and he's like, "You're the man. You're the only one that can do this."
Well, first I told him, I said, look, from a convict's perspective, we understand this.
Yeah.
That's how, we did the law, so we ain't looking for, we're not looking for down the road. We want to give second look. Well, all this stuff this is minor stuff. I don't know how this got here, right? And he looked at, he said, he had no issue with it, right?
Obviously
I said-
not, yeah.
I said, and then I said, well, and he looked at me, look, I know you see him, like, he's exhausted. And that's what I said, look, you are the man, Eric. I dropped all of it. Eric, we need you to fix this for me, because he had told me, that we'd get it through from my, and he said, I'm the man. Like that. I said, yeah. He said,
Re-energized, huh?
He got,
I look over at him. I'm
He was
like,
hysterical.
can we make the deal? He's like, go make the deal.
Go make the deal.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Oh, God, that
Yeah.
was so, he.
And I know you've played an integral part in trying to, broker stuff between both sides. It's great.
But all the folks, all our justice people and everything else like that, really know what had to be done.
Yeah.
And we had interference from people who, whatever their reasons were not grassroots, were not realistic about. They're telling they think they're doing stuff for friends and families. No, they're not. They're doing their own. I call them poverty pimps. I have a.
I have that term too for some people, yeah. That's what I originated that one. Okay.
We know what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
There you
And
go.
they drive me crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in it for money
Yeah.
or anything else. They're not in it for the people.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
man, I've been in this business, like you say, 50 years.
Yeah.
It ain't about money. And I'll sleep under a bridge. It's about the people. It's about our hurting people. It's trying to get people educated to the fact out there that don't understand what it is to come out of your community. They don't understand, as we said before, I walk out the door any place. When I was a criminal, I used to, I used to worry. Okay, but I don't worry. But all my associates, and I have, multiracial organizational stuff. Okay, I know what my partners have suffered over the years.
Yeah.
How they had to watch out when they came to pick me up in my community. I could walk into their community and I didn't worry about, never even thought about it,
Yeah.
right? But when they came to get me, and even years ago, when they come into my community, they were, they were nervous, okay? And that sucks, okay?
Yeah.
To say it, jailhouse.
Yeah.
Well, not quite, but and again, it gets back. This stuff is so horrible. This stuff is so horrific. Nobody needs guns. We don't need guns if you live in the city. If you're a cowboy, you might need a gun. Or if you're hunting alligators, you might need, but if you're not hunting alligators, get a damn dog, okay? And this stuff has gone on. This stuff, I don't think most people understand. I think it's the oldest church of that in the country.
Yes, it's an old church.
Seriously, old church.
Yeah, all the AME churches are old.
AME,
Yeah, yeah.
are old. Yeah. Black church, by the
Yes.
way, African, what is it? I should know the
African Methodist Episcopal.
Yeah, Episcopal.
You know,
right.
and typically churches that focus a lot on education of the people
Of the
there.
open churches,
Sure.
always been.
Always.
Yeah, always been. You know, grandma was a Methodist.
Yeah, but we've got, many scholars have come out of our AME churches.
Exactly.
So certainly to target one of your oldest AME churches
Well,
in
the
Charleston.
pastor, a brilliant man. I mean,
So you have a large following of people that have strong faith convictions. Some maybe not, but I think the majority of yours do.
My majority do, though. Spiritual.
So it's very spiritual. So it's a dark day.
Yeah, exactly is.
It's a very dark day. It's not like someone just came and walked in when they're having a board meeting.
Oh, no.
Bible study
Bible study
and prayer.
in prayer.
So for all those people of faith that are listening, and I think it's a call.
It is a call.
There's a call.
I mean,
Hopefully this expands the national conversations that we're having on all types of judicial reforms, educational reforms, and just there's got to be a change
You
in
gotta
this.
look at who this guy was. Sitting senator. Open to anybody. I mean, you didn't have to go through a metal detector to this man, this great man.
So the question will
It
come.
was like if I was visiting you, you know
Got it.
what I
So
mean?
the question comes: do Black lives matter?
Yeah, exactly.
When you can take that many Black lives in a church, America, Connecticut, do Black lives matter?
My belief is he didn't do this. No 21-year-old did this alone. He had to be somehow trained, because I don't think a 21-year-old understands the symbolism of what happened there. I really believe this had to be a planned situation. He could be a lone wolf, what they call a lone wolf, but he had to have the materials that he understood what he was doing. He had to understand Martin Luther King had been there.
Well,
He had to,
interestingly, when I was watching this morning, one of the gentlemen from the ATF, former ATF officer, commented on the profile of this young man and said the very fact that he left this one woman alive unharmed to tell the story.
to tell the story.
Okay, that said a lot about him.
Oh, yeah. That's planned.
That he was clearly trying to message.
Yeah, that's a message. Yeah, that is exactly right. Yeah, that's what you do. Good evening, you're on Street Talk with Father Russ and his guest.
Good evening, Father Russ, Dennis here.
Hi, Dennis.
I agree with you. It is a very dark day, and it gets to a point where you would just wonder how much more can we as a people take.
Oh,
Topic, though, about the guns. Now, do either of you guys there tonight own guns?
No, I don't.
no, Dominic doesn't. Mine are long gone, put away. My daughter took them away from me. But I gave them up. Yeah.
Now,
But Dennis, I've been a gunman all my life.
oh, I know you have. Actually,
Okay.
I thought you still had guns in your house.
No more.
Nope, I don't own any guns.
I have
No,
shadow.
I would love to live in a world, and maybe someday, I don't think I'll see it in my time, where nobody would need guns. But with so much going on constantly, I don't think you're going to ever get rid of guns. So the only other solution I can see is you got to find some way to educate people. I don't want to say on guns, but everything that involves guns. I don't know if it's maybe teaching kids in school at a young age about guns, pros and cons of guns. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to say this, and I'm not doing a very good job.
Well, Dennis, you know what the problem with a gun is? It's a handy, easy way to kill.
Yeah,
Okay,
but it's also
it's not like
another way
you
of
can kill with a
protection.
lot of stuff, but you know, if you go into a prayer meeting with a knife to kill and butcher 9 people, it's going to take you time, and they're going to probably get away. I mean, this is how does a 21-year-old, okay, in that kind of city, well, I mean, the gun issue is, is part of the discussion.
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead.
Can I it goes back to your earlier comment.
Right.
It isn't guns that kill.
No,
It's people that
it's
kill.
big,
So your argument is, well, let's teach people more about guns. Well, I can teach about guns, but if you still don't know how to resolve conflict in a civil manner, you're still likely to use that gun.
Use a gun.
If you've got a mental health
That's
issue,
right.
you're likely to use that gun.
Right.
If you're a racist or something, or life situations that bring you to a boiling point, there's the potential for you to use that gun. So the possession of guns is
okay. If you were teaching, start with young people about guns and what they can do, and also bring in what you just said
Wow.
about situations that happen in life and how, in some cases, that's an easy way out. Like incorporate all this stuff somehow, because you guys got to know that the guns ain't going to go away.
No, Dennis, the problem is you got it backwards. Okay, it's backwards. You got to teach about social conflict. You got to teach. Okay, you got to teach about manners, discussion, interracial relationships and stuff like that. Empathy before you even get to guns. Okay, in other words, you need to be
all the other problems.
Dennis, you need to be an individual that is totally responsible, that isn't going to let his wacko brain, because he's mad at somebody, have a gun. Okay? Now they can. We've got to do something here.
I know. I agree with that.
Okay, and I don't have the answer, because I know from a criminal's perspective, I could always get a gun. However, I also know in every other country in the free world, what we call the free world, they don't have guns. They don't have killing. Well, I mean, Dominic...
Russ, that's really not true. There's been some horrific crimes committed in other countries.
No, nothing like here.
And people got their hands on guns.
Nothing
Unfortunately,
like...
in this world, you're always going to be able to get your hands on guns.
Listen.
But actually, I'll go back. You said you don't have the answer. No, you do have the answer, and you actually put it out there. The answer is, how we get there is a different story, but the answer is we need a cultural change.
Yeah, cultural change,
Okay?
exactly.
Because the problem is, again, it's not the gun, it's the culture that we've evolved into this culture where it's easy to hate, express that hatred and conflict. So if we would actually go back to our earlier piece, follow the money, if we would spend more time and more money from our youth through adolescence through adults, okay, to trying to using programs and things that move us towards that cultural change. And yes, to the point that people say, yes, I'm willing to give up my gun. I mean, I don't keep a gun. Why? Because I firmly believe he who lives by the sword dies by the sword.
I agree.
I walk through cities, urban cities, and you know what? I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Do I have the potential of getting shot, killed? Yes, I do. But I've determined that I'm going to be a person of nonviolence, a person of peace. If I've determined that, I'm pretty sure you have, others can do the same thing. It's a cultural change. And when we begin to invest, spend the time in doing that, it can happen. It takes time. This other conversation, we've been dealing with bullying. It takes time to do that. That's cultural change. So before we get to the point of having knives and weapons, back it up earlier. So you do have the answer. It's how
Well,
we-
I think we did a whole show.
All right,
on
guys.
this. Thanks,
Dennis,
Dennis.
I appreciate it,
Thank you,
Dennis.
Dennis.
Always,
Later.
I got to get you on the show so you can.
It's a
be
big
part-
issue, big
It's a
issue.
huge issue.
We did the whole show with what's her name, Robbie, from the people from New Haven, who do the whole conflict
Conflict
resolution.
resolution.
Yeah.
And they do this, and they offer this out, this service out as instead of going through the court systems,
That's right, yeah.
so the people understand where the other party's coming from, and we make so many assumptions in this world about where everybody's coming from on any given day,
yeah.
and a lot of times we're so far into our own heads instead of asking the question,
Where the-
or trying to look at it from
Exactly.
somebody else's point of view, or try to, which is what empathy is. Empathy is trying to take a look at it from somebody else's point of view. That's what it's all about. But if we teach that, in school, and teach how to resolve some of these conflicts, racism doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's not something that all of a sudden comes around one day and goes,
of course not.
oh, here's the
No,
switch.
Exactly.
No.
It's all around. It's all around, and we have never had the real. I don't think we ever had the real proper conversation, instruction in schools, history of what's gone on. We've overshadowed, glossed over, without dealing with the realities of how those things happen, so that we could get to the place where we can say, oh, wow, I mean, that happened to your people? Gee whiz, my people come over on chains and boats too, we have to go get out because Cromwell tried to burn our villages down. I mean, oh, wow, we had the same thing,
Yeah, Father Russ, you've always got a wonderful bunch of books that you always usually promote in your shows. You didn't do that today. So I'm going to promote one today.
Okay, good.
I think I promoted on your last show that I was on and the one before that.
Yeah.
Because it goes to your issue about listening to one another and conflict resolution. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People
Oh, I know.
by Stephen
Stephen
Covey.
Covey. Yep.
Remember, habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Say that title again.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Best book anyone can read. Something that should be taught in schools, should be taught in colleges. That will help move us as a society so much further. That one habit alone, seek first to understand, then to be understood. They teach all negotiation, of win-win negotiation and everything else. We will not be having this difficulty about race conversations and everything else when people start worrying about what's in it for me first. When I really take the time to find out, where are you at? I want to really understand you. What's your position?
Yeah, exactly.
And Stephen Covey teaches that I get to understand your position so well that I can advocate for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, it's kind of the things that changed my life. That's exactly what you're talking about. I got asked that question more times this week than I've ever had. What made you change and everything else? I went into prison. I was a nasty sucker. I was all about me, atheist. I come out of it I studied my theology from an atheistic perspective. But what I got caught up in doing was doing things for others. Yeah. And I got out of myself. And that's really how I got out of myself, okay? Because I had more than most other people in this situation. And then, oh, wow. I learned while I was doing stuff from others, I learned about that individual. I learned about what they went through. I started to get a little idea of how they were walking in those shoes and stuff like that. And it became, I developed, it became part of me. Well, it became part of me over the years. Even before God got a hold of me and said, hey, pal, straighten up. Because I didn't get galloping religion in prison. I got my epiphany or whatever happened outside of that. But the change started to happen, and by doing things and understanding other people, I did start to understand the Christian concept. I started understanding what Jesus was talking about and doing for others and your neighbor and stuff like that. That became a real type of thing.
Yeah.
My God, are we busy? Is that? No, I'm not. Okay. No, he's fine. And that's exactly what it is. That that development of change that you find out about other people.
Yeah.
Well, part of it's getting past the fear of just asking the question. I mean, that's a big part of it. I think that's one of the stumbling blocks that stops people and lets them go into making automatic assumptions about other people, is you never stop to ask the question.
Or they're too busy talking.
That's the other half.
They're too busy being heard.
Yeah.
People need to learn more about empathic listening, active listening. These aren't things they're not taught in school.
I know. Sorry, these are half of, like, every time you start talking about this, it runs me back to when I used to run a residential treatment center, because this is half of what we used to teach the staff on how to do.
Well, it's true. you know, a lot of people need a lot of learning, okay, and training, but we just don't, we don't do it. We don't do a good job. And we've got so defensive that we've got barriers all over the place. I mean, it's a horrible situation that to think that these things can happen. Okay, in my lifetime, you're talking 50 years. You never thought anything like this would. I mean, I didn't even think hate groups even thought these things would happen. Okay, that these things could get this far in a shot. We're not talking a long period of time.
No, we're not.
I mean, I was hoping things were changing, you know. When Martin got up there and said, "I have a dream," I really thought the dream was going to come true, and then boom, and then.
Well, many people thought the dream came true when we elected Barack Obama.
Yeah.
However, I would say, and I would imagine a number of people of color would agree, that because everyone thought everything was so fantastic, people began to show their real color after that day. We got to see as a nation that what was under the current.
Under the current.
And again,
Well,
I'll forever remember
Uh-huh.
you got a president of the United States giving a State of the Union address, and to have someone in Congress yell out "liar."
Oh, that was horrible.
That would have never happened to any other president.
Or have somebody from the Supreme Court mutter under his breath and like roll his eyes and everything else.
You know, or for the first couple of years of your presidency, challenge your birth certificate.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, you know, I think when we began to see that openly happen to a president, and that the office of the presidency was disgraced.
Disgrace.
And
Exactly.
and the media did not even pick up the gauntlet to say, wait a second, let's protect the
that.
office of the president.
They didn't do it.
Regardless of the color of the person that was
Right.
there, who, as we know, is half white as well as half black, right?
Yeah, right.
But the problem is, historically, if you've got a drop of black blood in you, you're black, and you're not.
Well,
So-
not only that, he's brilliant.
But the fact,
you're exactly
but the
right.
fact, one of the most honorable positions of our nation,
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
entire world, being
Right.
president of the United States, could be disgraced in such a way, and the media and everyone to allow that to happen, it speaks towards us continue to fall down as a nation.
Exactly.
And bring us to the point when we can have an issue like what happened today that reminds us again about those young girls who were bombed.
All the way back.
It brings your mind back.
Right back. Anybody that.
In a church.
Right, exactly, in a church. In a church, in a sanctuary, in a place of peace and love and hope. To have that happen is just, it's a dark day. It's a real dark day on the nation.
So for that reason, I would say that, and that's why the members of our caucus, of the Black and Puerto Rican caucus, and I applaud every one of them. They work hard, they sacrifice much, you know, to be that beacon, to be that voice for our communities, and to raise levels of consciousness, and always grateful for all of our allies who may not be people of color. But guess what? They've proven that they have their hearts are big.
They're
They
in the
understand.
right place.
They're in the right
They're
place.
in the right place.
And
You
they
know,
understand the real
you know what I
issues.
really think about, and you bring back Prudence Crandall, and I think of Brown versus Board of Ed, which the first time around failed on a close vote, and they asked them to bring it back under a different assumption, and that they had a different person who was leading the court. They had Earl Warren come in, who was a politician, and he came in, and he went around and he talked to all the other people that were on the Supreme Court to finally get them to come around to a point where Brown versus Board of Ed was a unanimous decision. He did that. And you know what? That's what it's going to take to fix some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Unless we all don't go around until, like, you know, the point that everybody understands where each of us come from and how important of an issue it is, and we all stand up and do the same thing.
Agree.
Then, you know, we're going to keep going around in the same circle, and we're going to keep having these tragedies and you're going to keep having this undercurrent of anger, you know, on both sides over different circumstances. But it takes a risk to be able to do that. And people have to stand up and find that within themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the toughest thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
I can't think of
their
who the
future and
leadership-
destiny.
Yeah, and that's, I got that little clip I saw, I know he's a noted man, I can't think of who he was, I saw, he's old, the gentleman, like, I'm not sure it wasn't Lewis, I don't know, okay, but he said, he was talking today, telling people, you all need to go back. We all need to talk about this. You need to stand up.
Yeah, yeah.
This is time. This is the time to stand up. You know, it's the show's going to be over. You know, the TV show's over. But guess what? The show's over for us. But that's when we go back to work. Huh? Everyone here at this table goes back to work. You're going to get up tomorrow morning, and we're going to be in the struggle, dealing with issues and stuff like that. And that's what we ask our people to do. That you need to bring together whatever it takes, even if it's a coffee clutch, and you're talking about this issue. You need to talk about it every place.
Right.
You know,
Big issue, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
one bite at a time. That's right.
Okay. So each individual we're talking to shouldn't feel that this is so monumental that you couldn't do anything.
Right.
Everyone can do something.
Exactly right.
Everyone, had a person talk about each one teach one. So what you said is so true, Dominic. You know, we talk to our neighbor, whatever conversations we have, and we stand up for righteousness.
Right.
You know, we raise the level of consciousness so that other people will have these similar conversations and influence.
Well, I think that's exactly right. When you make people think about the issue, whether you resolve it or not, that's not the thing. It's getting them to think about the issue, getting them to, start to realize that these are the things that are happening and stuff like that. You know what? Do you see this show went by so fast? You come in here, I love. You know.
That's okay. I get it for the car ride back too.
Right.
We do.
I know. He's got you.
All the way. It's good. I love having the conversation in the car. So it's
Well,
good.
you know, I love to get you once in a while and be able to.
I thoroughly enjoy being here.
To be with you and talk to you and all the work that you're doing. You got a lot of work. I guess you're going to go back into
Special session.
special
Special
session.
session, yeah.
Big stuff.
Oh, yes.
A lot of big issues
A
on the table.
A lot of big issues
of
still on the
big-
table.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll.
Yeah, we've had a
talk-
successful session so far, but we need to get past that special session and hope to be able to come back and share the fact that we had some really great successes.
Stuff working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And you're working in the midst of the hardest time in
Yeah.
politics and everything else
Yeah.
like that. I love you. Who we got next week?
Zach leaving.
Zach. God bless you, Zach. I can't wait to have you sitting across from me, Zach. Okay, you know, and you're doing a great job for the mayor. Okay, so we'll be talking about that next week.
He'll be in the hot seat.
First, love
Hey,
you.
Father
Thanks a
Russ,
lot.
love you. Love you.
Okay,
Love
so
you. Always love you,
next week,
Dominic.
Zach, and we can run the street. And the week after, we got Kathy coming back. What
Week
you
after
said?
that, you got Pastor.
Oh, we got Michael Passero on, and then I know we got
Kathy Oston,
coming, and then we got Paul. Good
Paul
question.
for me.
Great
Good night.
people, great
Oh,
lineup.
I am lucky. I am blessed with the lineups.